Let's talk about the first self-driving cars ever. We see all these self-driving companies today like Waymo, Tesla, Zook, Aurora, Neuro, Cruise, all of these, fancy names being thrown around. I think it's important to go back to the roots and just ideate on exactly how all of these ideas got rolling, how these companies came into existence, how the motivation to build a self-driving car even started. Let's go back just over a decade ago. The idea of being chauffeured around by a string of zeros and ones, which is the bits in the computer today, was ludicrous pretty much to everybody who wasn't at an abandoned Air Force base outside Los Angeles. This was where they went to watch a dozen driverless cars glide through real traffic. That event was the Urban Challenge, the third and final competition for autonomous vehicles put on by DARPA, the Pentagon's Skunk Works arm. It's basically just an experimental project. So during that time, America's military-industrial complex had already thrown vast sums and years of research trying to make unmanned trucks. It had laid a foundation for this technology, but it stalled when it came to making a vehicle that could actually drive at practical speeds. Although all the hazards of the real world were still there, and making it navigate through that was a real difficulty that people faced at that time who were making self-driving vehicles. So DARPA figured maybe someone else, maybe someone outside of the Department of Defense's standard roster of contractors, someone not tied to a list of detailed requirements, but striving for a slightly crazy goal, could put it all together, kind of like the Silicon Valley types. So it invited the whole world to build a vehicle that could drive across California's Mojave Desert. Whoever's robot did the fastest would get $1 million prize. This was basically the deal. The 2004 Grand Challenge was something of a mess. Each team grabbed some combination of sensors and computers available at that time. They just put together some code that they wrote and welded their own hardware, looking for the right recipe that would take their vehicle across the 142 miles of dirt and sand of the Mojave. So technically speaking, they just threw a bunch of mud at the wall and saw what stuck. The most successful vehicle though went just 7 miles. Most of them crashed or flipped or rolled over within sight of the starting gate itself. But the race created something unique. The race created something really, really important that even I should be thankful for. What the race created was a community of people, geeks, dreamers, and lots of students. They were not yet jaded by the commercial enterprise of self-driving vehicles, but they believed that the robot drivers people had been craving for nearly forever, really possible, and who were suddenly driven to make it a reality. They came back for a follow-up race in 2005 and proved that making a car itself was indeed possible. 5 vehicles finished the course. By the 2007 Urban Challenge, the vehicles were not just avoiding obstacles and sticking to their trails, but also following traffic laws, merging, parking, even making safe, legal U-turns. When Google launched its self-driving car project in 2009, it started by hiring a team of DARPA Challenge veterans. Within 18 months, they had built a system that could handle some of California's toughest roads, including, the famously winding block up in San Francisco called Lombard Street. Yeah, it handled that too, all with very minimal human involvement. A few years later, Elon Musk announced that Tesla would build a self-driving system into its cars, and the proliferation of ride-hailing services like Uber and Lyft, it basically brought together the relationship of actually being in a car and being transported, and removed that relationship from actually owning that car, which was a model that we were working off of for a long time. And self-driving is actually bringing that close together even more than before. So in 2015, Uber poached a bunch of scientists from Carnegie Mellon University, a robotics and artificial intelligence powerhouse is up there. You should go visit CMU sometime to just get a feel of all the robotic geniuses that come out of that place. Uber hired these people to get this effort going. After a few years, the technology reached a point where no automaker could ignore it. Companies like Ford, General Motors, Nissan, Mercedes, other automakers in the world started pouring billions of dollars into their own R&D. The tech giants followed, as did these bunch of startups that I just talked about. Hundreds of small companies are now rushing to offer improved radar, LiDAR, maps, data management systems, computes, and all of these things and selling it to the big fish. The race is truly on. But then why should you get excited about this race? Because when we talk about self-driving companies or the robotics industry, it's not just those companies that are making the end products that we are drawing into question. It's mostly all of these other players that feed the maps, feed the compute, feed the GPUs, feed all these special purpose equipment and software and development processes into these self-driving companies that makes it a multi-trillion-dollar industry at large. And that's the reason we all need to pay attention to this, because somewhere down the line, whatever we work on will end up in a robot or a self-driving vehicle, and staying ahead of the curve will really help us be in a better prepared position whenever that happens. Some of us, for example myself, it's happening right now, but for a lot of you it'll happen sooner than you really think, and I want you to be prepared for that. One of the other ways to be prepared for such a thing is to follow my content exclusively on robotics, self-driving, AI by subscribing to this channel. It takes a lot of effort to make these videos, so please be sure to comment how you like these videos and what other topics you'd like me to make videos of. All right, see you next time. Bye.